All right, stay classy, Golden Eagles. So this is going to be lesson 3 of the week, and we're still focused on our book Flight, about the story of Charles Lindbergh crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and our book is written by Robert Burleigh. So you are going to need that document from yesterday titled Think, Pair, Write about Flight. And I put in another section below where it says below is for lesson 3, day 3. The first one I modeled for you, and the final 2 is where you're going to repeat the same steps that you did in yesterday's lesson. And you're going to do the write a sentence, capitalization, punctuation for students thinking about stop 6. So we're going to stop 3 total times. I'll model 1 for you, and then you're going to do the final 2 yourself. All right? So remember what we're doing, and our main important thing is what is most important from these small sections that we're reading. It's not the whole book. It's the 2 to 3 pages that we're reading. It may be a few more pages today than it had been in the past, but it is going to be those type of it's smaller sections, and we're just focusing on what is the most important thing from those small 2 to 3, maybe even 4 pages, all right? So we're going to pick up where we left off, and I'm going to go ahead and continue. So remember, what is most important idea that is from that part of Flight, all right? So there are some of the things, so where we're picking off, he's up in the sky at night. He has just almost fallen asleep, and he started to chant to himself, I must not sleep, I must not sleep. Here high above the churning ocean, to sleep is to die. Just to kind of keep himself going and not fall asleep because he has been up for 50 straight hours. There are some of the things he does. These are some of the things he does to stay awake. He leans his face near the open window to feel the cool air. He holds his eyelids up with his fingers to keep them from closing. He remembers growing up on a farm in Minnesota. He remembers being a trick pilot and walking out on a plane's wings. He remembers the people in St. Louis who paid for this plane. Sometimes he takes a sip of water from his canteen. He also has 5 chicken sandwiches with him. That is all the food that he has brought, but he eats nothing. It is easier to stay awake on an empty stomach. His body cries for sleep. He loses track of time. The sleep is endless. He wishes for the sun to rise. Dawn comes slowly growing out of the gray mist. Will the fog never end, he wonders? The clouds change color from green to gray to red and gold. Lindbergh has been in the air for 23 hours. He is 2,300 miles from New York and has 1,300 miles to go. He feels completely alone in the world. He feels as if he were flying through all of eternity. He tries to stay on course, but because of the constantly curving route, he's not always sure he's on the right course. He sees far below him the ocean. From high up, it is like a great blue shaft with gray walls. Then he flies into the clouds again, into the unchanging mist. The day comes on brighter and warmer. Sometimes he imagines he sees land. Nope, it's only the flickering shapes of clouds and water, endless water. It is 7:30 in the morning in New York, and Paris is over 1,000 miles away. There's no alternative but death and failure, he writes. There is no alternative but death and failure, he writes. Flying closer to the water, Lindbergh sights a porpoise leaping out from the waves. He spies a seagull. Then fishing boats. Something quickens in Lindbergh's blood. He glides the Spirit of St. Louis carefully down and down just above the boat. He throttles the plane and calls out a question. Which way, he shouts, is Ireland? He hopes for a word and longs for a wave. A warmer welcome back to the fellowship of men. It is 10:52 in the morning, New York time. This will be our last page before we do the first stop, and I'll model for you what I thought was the most important thing from these pages we've read. Lindbergh sees in the distance low mountains. Now he's awake with new hope. Land is near. He quickly unfolds a map across his knees. He flies over the southern tip of Ireland. He's right on course. Cows graze on green hills. People in horse-drawn carts look up and wave. He could land in Ireland, but he decides to go on. He wants to complete his dream. So guys, of those 4 to 5 pages that we just read, it's now my turn to model for you guys what I thought was the most important part of those 4 to 5 pages, or most important thing to come out. And the most important thing is he made it across the ocean. He's completed part of his journey. One of the big things was crossing the ocean. Now the second part of it is he needs to get to Paris. That's where the journey and the mission ends. But he got the hardest part over with, right? He's crossed the ocean. He could now, if in emergency, he could land safely, right? There's land. He could just land in some farmer's field if need be, right? So everything is looking pretty good for him. He's completed the first part, but he wants to complete the entire thing, which is getting to Paris, France. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to read for you guys, and I'm going to end this video, and when we pick up with the next video, it's going to be for you guys to focus on the final 2 stops where you guys are going to write down a sentence, maybe 2, of what you think is the most important part from those like small chunks of pages that I'm reading. As always, stay classy, Golden Eagle.